Hello everyone. Welcome to your PW English Medium 9th and 10th channel. I am Asta Suryavanshi, your biology tutor, your biology educator. So we are back with another chapter, that is improvement in food resources. Right? Definitely not a chapter which is deleted from your school exams, will be a part of your school exams, and we're going to discuss it today in very much detail, and that too in a one shot. Yes, that is for the Phoenix batch for the class 9. This is a one shot video. That is, you don't have to go anywhere. This is your one stop destination. Come here, watch this video, learn this topic, and you are good to go for your exams. So yes, this whole lecture will purely be in English medium. So let's get started with this chapter, improvement in resources. I hope you all are excited. I hope you all are ready. I hope your Josh is high. I hope you have your notebooks and pen in front of you so that you are making your notes with me, because nothing is good if you're not making your notes. So it's very good suggestion from my side that please keep your notes handy, keep your pens and notebooks near you so that you are here with me, you're not lost anywhere else. So let's get started everyone without wasting much of our time. So basically what we are going to deal in this chapter, what we're going to study in this chapter. So this chapter basically will start with what are crops and what are the types of the crop, different types of the crop. Then we're going to move towards how we can improve the crop yield. And lastly, we're going to move towards the animal husbandry. Once we are done with all this, we're going to discuss few questions, right? So let's get started with the very first thing. Now, if you see this chapter name, improvement in food resources. Now, what is this chapter, right? We'll start from the name itself, right? We are improving in our food resource. So we all know we all require food, right? I start dancing here, I need energy. I am speaking here, I need energy. You are making your notes and starting with me. All of these different body functions, they require energy. And from where do we get our energy? Yes, we get our energy from the food we consume, right? So we can say the food, it provides energy so that we can perform different body functions, right? Maybe I can dance, right? I maybe make notes, I may be making a lecture in front of you, right? So I need energy for performing different body functions, and that energy I'm going to get it from the food, right? Now, if I talk about the food, from where do I get my food? From where do you get your food? You get your food maybe from the plants or the animals, right? From the plants or the animals. What type of food you get from the plants? Either going to get the dals, the pulses, basically gram, or you're going to get the wheat or rice, or maybe vegetables and fruits and spices, right? So all these things you get it from the plants. But also animals provide food as well, right? What do you get from animals? You take in the milk, you take in meat, right? You take in the eggs and honey. So different types of the food can also be get from the animals. So the food we get from the plants as well as animal, which we use to make energy to perform different body functions. Now you know guys that the population is increasing, right? Population is increasing, number of individuals are increasing day by day. The more the individuals, the more is the demand of the food, isn't it? Let's say you are having a party and I have, called my Masi, please come and join us, right? And we're going to party, we're going to celebrate. I'm cooking the food, right? I'm having all the tasty food. Maybe I'm having momos or chole bhature or paneer sabzi or whatnot. I have made all of that food. Suddenly the phone rings and my uncle is there and my friends are there and my other relatives are there, and they'll be like, Asta, I am also coming. I will also be coming. I'll be like, okay, come join us. But what I have to do with the food? I have to make more food, because otherwise they'll be hungry. Otherwise their needs will not be met. So I have to produce more food. Similarly, if let's say the population is increasing, so as to satisfy their demand, I have to make sure that I am increasing the production. I am increasing the food production. But while I am increasing the production of the food, I have to make sure I am doing it sustainably. I am making sure that the plants and animals are not affected by it. I am making sure the environment is not affected by it. I am making sure the nature is not getting disturbed. So remember, yes, we are increasing the food production, seeing the population increase, but we have to make sure that we are doing it sustainably, right? That is without degrading the environment and disturbing the natural balance. So yes, we are doing it sustainably, otherwise it's of no use, right? Now you get it why we are improving the food resources, right? Now you know the name of the chapter, what we are going to discuss in it. And yes, we say agriculture. So when we say agriculture is the science of growing plants and raising animals. So yes, in this chapter we're going to talk about the plants as well as animals. We are not going to ignore any single one of them. We're going to focus on both of them. First, obviously, we'll discuss about the plants, and then we will move towards the animals. That will be the flow of the lecture. So let's move ahead. So basically, once I see this word crop, what do I mean by the word crop? So let's say this is my field, right? This is my field, and in this field I am growing my wheat crop. I will be growing the wheat crop. So if I say this field has wheat crop, it means that in this field all the kinds of the plants which are growing will be of wheat only, right? If I'm saying this is the field of the wheat crop, then all the crops which will be growing, all the plants which will be growing in this field will be of wheat only. So crop is when the plant of the same kind, they are grown at a large scale on a single piece of land. This we call it as a crop, right? That we call as a crop. I hope the word crop is clear. Now the crops can be of different types. Let's have a look at it. So the very first thing is we see the cereals, right? What do we get from the cereals? Like the wheat is there, rice is there. So wheat and rice, what does it provide? Right? You have chapati, you consume rice at your home. What do you get from that? Yes, you get cereals, and cereals basically provide you with sugars. They provide you with carbohydrate. So remember, C for carbohydrates, C for cereals, right? So basically cereals here, they provide carbohydrates. Some of the examples are mentioned in front of you. Then we have the fruits and vegetables, right? You consume fruits and vegetables. Why do you consume them? Yes, because you get vitamins and minerals. So different fruits and different vegetables will provide you different kinds of the vitamins and different kinds of minerals. So basically, this will provide you with vegetables and fruits, okay, vitamins and minerals. Vegetables and fruits basically provide you with vitamins and minerals. You know all the different types of the vegetables and different types of fruits. We have mango, we have apple, right? All the different kinds are mentioned here. Next we move to pulses. Now pulses, like mama says at home, right? Eat your dals, eat that rajma, eat that chole chawal. Why she is pointing out to those? Because all of these pulses, they provide you with protein. protein. And you must have seen all the bodybuilder having all the protein dabbas to make their dole shole, to make their biceps. And why are they consuming those proteins? Because proteins basically help to build the muscles, right? So basically, if you want to build your muscles, you can consume your at-home protein sources, that is the gram, pea, bean, arhar and soya bean. So basically, pulses provide you with proteins. Right? And now once we are making the chapati and we put ghee on it, or maybe we are frying our chole bhatures, or maybe we are frying our momos to make it kurkure momos. So basically all of that is nothing but your oil, right? And oil gives us the necessary fat for our body. So I can say oil seed crops, they provide fat, right? So that was about your different types of the crop and what different sort of things we are getting from them, right? So basically the cereals, so remember, C for cereals, C for carbohydrates, P for pulses, P for proteins. You won't be able to forget if you remember by this trick. Let's move ahead, right? I hope this is clear. So yes, we have all the different kinds of crops. We have a maize here, we have peas here, we have a sunflower here, we have gram here. Different kinds of crops are seen. Now we move to green revolution. Now what is green revolution? So basically scientists were able to grow large number of wheat. The yield of the production of the wheat increasing, basically the cereals increases, and in that cereal basically majorly I should say wheat increases. Why that result, that the yield or the production of the food grain increasing during 1970? That was because of, that is the father of green revolution, that is Mr. Dr. N.E. Borlaug. Mr. Borlaug, right? And yes, in India also the food grain production increased, and that was because of Mr. M.S. Swaminathan. So basically, yes, because of different agricultural practices which we followed, right? We used good seed quality, we nurtured our crops, we gave them timely water, we protect them from the pathogen. So we did all of these practices, and all of these led to increase in the yield of the grains, and this increase in the yield of grain is called as green revolution. Father of green revolution, if it is asked, Mr. Borlaug, and if it is asked, father of Indian Green Revolution, M.S. Swaminathan, right? That was about your Green Revolution. Now let's little bit move ahead towards the types of the crops. Now you remember guys, we all have different needs, right? Someone require a black dress for the party, someone is gonna wear maybe a sari for the party, someone is gonna wear a suit for the party. So we have different demands. Similarly, crops also have a different demands. It will be like, one crop is like, I want more water. One crop will be like, I want more summer season. One will be like, I want winter season. Just like you have different favorite seasons, right? Right now, the monsoon season is going on, and what is my favorite season? My favorite is, by the way, winters, right? So just like we have different favorite seasons, crops also have different favorite seasons. Now why do they have favorite seasons, right? Because the growth of the plant will be affected by what sort of climate conditions are there, right? Basically the temperature and the photo period will affect the growth and the development of the plant. Now what is this word photo period? We all know about temperature, right? Yes, in winters the temperature will be less, in the summer temperature will be more. But what is this word photo period? Whenever in biology you see a complex word, just break it to crack it, right? You just have to break it to crack it. If you see this word photo period, photo means light and period means duration. So isn't it clear that the duration of the sunlight, which will basically affect the growth of the plant, right? So obviously different plants have different requirement or different necessities for the photo period, or shall I simply put, for the duration of the light, right? So basically, yes, the duration of the light will influence the growth of the plant, and obviously we have temperature. So on the basis of different climatic conditions, there are three types of the crop, that is Kharif, Rabi and Zaid. Now Kharif is the one which generally grows in the monsoon season. Hence we're going to call this crop as monsoon crop. Since it grows in the monsoon season, therefore we're going to call it as the monsoon crop, right? Or shall I say the rainy crop? You can call it as the rainy crop also, one or the same thing. Now Kharif is the one which we're going to sow it in the month of the June and harvest in the month of October. Now remember, what do we mean by sow and harvest? Just to give you a recap of class 8. Remember, we discussed in the class 8 crop production and management chapter. So what is sow? Basically, once you put that seed in the soil, that process is called as the sowing. And what is harvesting is once the whole plant has grown and it's all good to go, it's all good to use, so you're going to cut it so as to use it. That process is called as harvesting. So it is sown in the month of June, harvested in the month of October. Rice, which is also called as paddy, maize, soya bean, groundnut, cotton are some examples of the Kharif crop. Now we move to Rabi crops. Rabi crops are the one which like winters, right? That is, they are winter crops. Winter crops. Winter crop is Rabi crop, and it will be sown in the month of November, harvested in the month of April, and the examples are wheat, barley and gram. Remember, generally we confuses that the wheat and rice are lying in the same category. Remember, rice is a Kharif crop and wheat is a Rabi crop. And lastly, we move to the Zaid crop, right? That is the one, you guessed it right, that is the one which we're going to, yes, summer crop, which are going to grow in the summer season. Very great, amazing guys. So the summer crop is the Zaid crop, grown in the month of the summer season. So basically March is the sowing month and June is the harvesting month. Muskmelon, watermelon are the examples of the Zaid crops. So that was about the different types of the crops on the basis of the seasons, right? So let's move ahead with this topic. So basically, a few moments back, I told you guys that yes, in the Green Revolution, the wheat production, the wheat yield increases, the cereal yield increases. Why that increase? What practices do farmers followed for that increase? So that basically we are increasing the crop yield, and how we are doing so? We are doing so by three methods. All the three methods we're going to take in detail one by one. The three methods are listed here. That is the crop variety improvement. Basically, we are improving the variety of the crop by choosing a good seed for planting, by choosing a preferable good high yield seed for planting. Next is crop production management. Basically, once the crops are growing, we are taking care of them, we are nurturing them, we are giving them the sufficient water, we are providing them with nutrients. So that we're going to discuss in crop production and management. And lastly, we have crop protection management. Crop protection management, basically we are protecting it. Isn't it clear? The word always says what it wants to say to us, and you just have to capture it, right? As always I say, in biology you have to look in between the lines, you have to look in between the words, try to break it to crack it, right? So basically crop protection is nothing, we are protecting our crops from what? From the pests, from the damage, from the losses. So we are protecting our crops. So let's discuss one by one each of the following. Let's get started, everyone. The very first thing is crop variety improvement. Now we are increasing the variety. How we will be increasing the variety? What variety do we need? Right? What variety do we need? We are increasing the variety. right? We are improving the variety. What sort of variety do we need? What is the preferable variety do we need, right? So the preferable variety, I will be needing that it should be having a high yield, basically more production per unit area of the land, right? More crops are growing in per area of the land. So I can say variety means, yes, the yield should increase. The yield should increase. Then what more need I have? I need that, yes, they should not be catching diseases easily. If they catch the diseases easily, how will they be fit for our human consumption? Remember, humans are selfish. They are doing it for their own benefit, right? It's not like they care for them. They're doing it because obviously once you're going to eat those crops, it will be going into your body and it will be affecting you. So basically, I can say, yes, the variety, basically how we are increasing the yield, as well as we are making them disease resistant. They are not catching the disease very easily. And also, once we're going to give them the fertilizers, they should be showing growth to it, right? Fertilizers are the chemical substances which provide nutrients to the soil. Right, you must have studied in your class 8. I hope you remember your class 8. You have not forgotten it. So once we are giving those nutrients to the soil, they are responding very good to it. They are showing that growth. So basically, yes, these are the three things where we want that desired characters. We want these characters to be present in our seed, right? So that was about how we should be increasing our variety. But that was about the variety. But how we are doing that? Okay, we get it. We want to increase the yield. Okay, we get it. We want to make it disease resistant. But how we are doing it? We are doing it by a method called as plant breeding. So plant breeding is a method basically where we are incorporating desired characters into the crops. Right? What are the desired characters? These are the desired characters, right? These are the desired characters. Right? So we want them, right? That is plant breeding. Basically, we are incorporating the desired characters into our plant. How we are doing it? How we are doing it? We are doing it by one of the method called as a hybridization. Now, what is a hybridization? Hybridization is once we are making a cross between two genetically dissimilar plants. What we are doing in it, right? Let's have a look at it. What we are doing in a hybridization. What is basically occurring in hybridization method? So basically, we are crossing the two genetically dissimilar plants, right? Genetically dissimilar plant means, let's say I have a plant here A and then I have a plant here B. Now, this plant A is giving us a high yield, right? It is giving us a high yield. On the other hand, the plant B is giving me the disease resistant quality. That is, it is not catching the disease very easily. Now again, humans being selfish, they want that. Why not a single plant have all the qualities, right? You want a phone which can click a good picture, which is the smooth touch is there, or maybe you can play your games there, or maybe it will look very beautiful for you, right? So basically, you want all of the characteristics in one single thing. Right? In a single phone, you want all the characteristics. Let's say you're buying a pen. It should be like giving you very smooth writing, maybe work for 10 days and it will score you some extra marks, as they say, right? So that's not true. The extra marks will be scored by you only if you practice, if you study hard. So by the way, similarly, we want a single plant to have both the characteristics. Why not have a single plant and make it disease resistant as well as high yield? Why not make a plant with having both the characteristics? What we're going to do, we're going to breed them, right? We're going to make a cross between them, and whatever the plant will be coming now, it will be having characteristic of the both. That is, it will be high yield also, as well as disease resistant. So this plant which is having characteristic of both the plants, we're going to call such plant as hybrid. Now this hybrid is a high yield variety, HYV. HYV means it is going to yield you good amount of crops, high yield variety, right? Making sense, yes or no? Tell me, is it making sense? So this process is called as hybridization, where we are making a hybrid having characteristics of both, and both the characteristics are very desired, are very great. So that was about your hybridization, where we are making a cross between two genetically dissimilar plants, right? And we are getting the desired characteristics, right? I have told you the desired characteristics have come, right? Moving forward, now this hybridization of three types, right? In what sort of plants are we making that cross? So it is of three types, that is intervarietal, interspecific and intergeneric. Now the varietal one is the one where we are making a cross between the two varieties but of the same species. I'll be like, ma'am, what are these words? Species, genus, what are these words? These words are going to cater in your diversity chapter, right? So basically, if a cross is there between two varieties of the same species, we're going to call it as intervarietal. Inter means between, right? And once the cross is between two species, then we're going to call it as interspecific, and lastly, if it is between the two genus, we're going to call it as intergeneric. Between the two genus, inter means between, right? So these were the types of the hybridization. Now what are the other methods by which we can improve the variety, right? How we are improving variety? The another method is where we are making genetically modified organism. How we are making that organism? Now let's have a look at it. Now before we move towards it, I want to ask you a single question. Do you remember the cell chapter? The cell chapter which we studied. If we have not remember, please go and have a look at it. We have already discussed the cell in very detail. You have a one-shot video for that as well. But what is this desired characters? Desired characters, do you remember? If a plant is tall, if a flower is purple, all of that is because, yes, this is because they have a DNA for it. They have chromosomes for it. So basically the gene, the DNA, they are responsible for the character. So the characters are controlled by DNA, the gene. So what we are doing in this particular method called as gene modification, right? I am seeing a plant here, right? I am seeing a plant here. Now this plant is very good, I am happy with it, but this plant is not disease resistant. This plant is not disease resistant, but I want this plant to be disease resistant. How I'm going to make it disease resistant? Let's say I am seeing an organism here. I am seeing an organism here. Let's say I am seeing a bacteria here, right? I am seeing an organism. Let's say I am seeing a bacteria. Let's write bacteria. I am seeing a bacteria here, and this bacteria is basically, it is pest resistant, right? It is disease resistant. Now I want, if the insect is not able to attack this bacteria, why it is able to attack my plant? So what I'm going to do, now this bacteria, I'm going to take that gene from the bacteria which was protecting it from the pest. I'm going to put it inside the plant, right? Remember what I did? I took the gene from the bacteria which was making it the pest resistant or disease resistant. I'm going to incorporating that into the plant, right? So now the plant will be, yes, the disease resistant or maybe the pest resistant or any quality I want. If if I want any quality, I'm going to put that DNA inside the plant. Any quality, let's say I want a high yield, or maybe I want a pest resistant, disease resistant. I'm going to take that DNA and I'm going to put it in the plant. Now plant will also be that quality. So basically the DNA control the characters. So if I want a particular character, I should be inserting that particular gene inside the plant, right? So basically if I incorporate desired gene, the gene which I desire, the gene which is amazing, and obviously if the gene is desired, it will have desired character. Desired gene will have desired character. So what we are doing, we are incorporating that gene into the plant. Now the plant is changed. The plant DNA is changed. The plant genes are changed. A new gene is present in the plant. So now I'm going to call that plant as genetically. The genes are being modified. Therefore, genetically modified crop, or maybe an organism, right? Or maybe instead of crop you can write foods, or maybe in the food you can write organism. Genetically modified organism, you are modifying, basically modify means changes. So you are changing the genes, you are inserting a new gene for the desired character. So that was about the gene modification. And similarly we made a BT cotton plant, right, and we added a bacterial gene into it. Just right now I told you, let's say I find a bacteria and it has that gene which can make it resistant to the pest, and I am incorporating that into the plant, right? So that was about it. We are making a transgenic plant or a genetically modified plant. Is it clear? So these were the two methods of how we can improve the quality. Basically we are improving the variety of the crop, right? So one was the hybridization and another was your genetic modification, right, where we are changing or modifying the genes. That was about crop variety improvement. Now what are the factors for which we do this improvement? What are the different factors for which we are improving the crop variety? Now the very first thing is high yield. We already know what is high yield. We are increasing the production per unit acre, right? We are increasing the production per unit acre. Now improved quality. What do we mean by improved quality? Let's say you are consuming the pulses. Why do you want to consume the pulses? You want proteins. Why you are consuming the oil seeds? Because you want fats. So basically you are improving the quality, as in you are improving the protein quality in the pulses, oil quality in the oil seed crops, and also if you are consuming vitamins and minerals, that is you are consuming the fruits and vegetables, you want to improve their preserving quality, right? So what you are doing in improving quality, you are also improving the or increasing the preserving quality of fruits and vegetables, right? You are improving the protein in the pulses, and also what you are doing, you are improving the oil in your oil seeds. Easy. Basically you are improving the quality. Next is biotic and abiotic stresses. Now what do you mean by this? So guys, is it like that, okay ma'am, you know what, today is raining, I'm not going to work, I'm not going to study, I'm not going to go. Okay ma'am, today is maybe very hot, I'm not gonna study. Is it possible? No. So because we should be resistant to it, no matter what comes, you should prioritize your studies. Your studies should be very much priority. You should not be looking for any excuses. Similarly, these crops also, they are not looking for any excuse. we are improving the quality by making them resistant so that they can handle these biotic and abiotic stresses. See, bio means living. Whenever you see this word bio, it means living. That is the living organisms which can affect the crops, that is the bacteria, the fungus, right, all the different types of the insects, right, the diseases they can cause. These are the biotic components which can disturb or damage the plant. And then we have the abiotic stress. Maybe we have a high temperature, we have lower temperature, right? All of this again can disturb the condition plant. So the plant should, the crop should be resistant to them. They're like, you know what, I'm not affected with all of this. I am going to survive in every condition you provide me, right? So we are improving our crop for the biotic and abiotic stresses, right? Biotic, we can mention maybe our different types of diseases, bacteria, fungus, insect, right? So these are the biotic stresses, basically the living. And abiotic, see the word A means absent and bio means living. A means absent, bio means living. That is the organisms, basically the non-living objects, the non-living stuffs, right? The non-living things can also affect your crop. That is your temperature, high temperature, or maybe cold condition, extreme cold condition, etc. Right? All these conditions can also damage your crop. So you're protecting them from biotic as well as abiotic stresses. So that was about it. We have some other points also how we can improve the crop, right? So now, for what factors we are improving the crop variety? We have change in maturity duration. Now, what is this maturity duration? Maturity duration means duration from the sowing till harvesting, right? The duration between the sowing and harvesting, this process is called as maturity duration. So we can say the duration from the sowing to the harvesting. Now, what do you think? If this duration is less, then it's good, or if the duration is more, then it is good. Yes, let's say in one area you are growing maybe one single crop in 5 months, right? But in another area you are growing maybe 3 crops in 5 months, just giving an example. So which one is better? Yes, the one where we are growing 3 crops, so it will be more economically better because the farmer will be able to grow multiple rounds of crop in a single year. It's not like for a whole year only single crop is growing. So from a single year, the farmer can obtain 4 or maybe many rounds of the crops from a particular field. Also remember that the production cost decrease. If let's say in 1 year only 1 crop is growing, the farmer has to supply more water, nutrients, and also take care of the pest. But once the farmer is growing 5 different crops, yes, the 5 crops are also growing, but also the crop production is decreased, right? We can say crop production is decreased, the investment you are putting into that, right, the cost is decreasing. Also we can say more rounds of crops are grown, right? So I can say multiple rounds of crops grown in a single year. Right, clear. Now guys, imagine if this is the land, right? If this is the land and there is a crop which is growing here, right? And if I say, if all the crops which are growing, they should be having uniform maturity. What do we mean by it? Uniform maturity, that is, they should be maturing, they should be harvesting at a single time. It's not like, okay, 2 months have already taken place, now we're going to harvest these crops. Now maybe 2nd month is done, then we're going to harvest maybe only these crops. Now in the rest of the months I'm going to harvest this crop. It's not great. right? So basically what do we want? That all the crops should be harvesting at a single go. We should be able to harvest all of them in a single time, in a single go, because yes, otherwise we're going to might lose it. The harvesting becomes difficult, right? We just have to cut it here. We cannot cut here because they are not already matured. Or maybe also we can take care that yes, once we are harvesting, that other crop is not coming, right? So basically it saves the time and the labor if all of them are maturing at a particular time. That is, the crop should be having a uniform maturity, right? I can say they have uniform. All should mature at a particular time, right? Next point, we have wider adaptability. Wider adaptability, it's like if you go to Ladakh, yes, I'll be able to survive. If you go to Rajasthan, you will be able to survive. Similarly, for the crops also, if you take them to Ladakh or maybe to a hot condition, so that is, they should be able to adapt to different climatic conditions. That is basically wider adaptability. They are adapting to different environmental conditions. Lastly, desirable agronomic characteristics. Basically, we need different characteristics for different kinds of plants. That is the fodder plant. If we talk about the fodder plant, what are the fodder plants? What are the fodder crops? The crops which we are basically growing for the food of animals, right? They act like the food for the animals, the chara which we say, right? The animals, once we are growing them, we give them the food. So that is the fodder crop which we are growing, but the food, the animals. Now these fodder crops, what are the requirement for these? That they should be having very tall height and they should have large amount of branching. They should be tall and they should show profuse branching. And also for the cereal crops, we want them to be little small because we want them to be taking less amount of nutrients, right? So we can say yes, dwarfness. Dwarfness means short heightedness is desired in the cereal so that less minerals are consumed by them, right? Very, very important. Sometimes they generally ask you what are the different desirable agronomic characteristics for the cereal, that they should be dwarf. And why do we need that? So that they take less nutrients. So guys, this was about our very first thing for improving the yield, that is crop variety improvement, right? We have seen hybridization in it, we have seen genetically modified crops on it, and also we saw different factors for which this crop variety improvement. Now we are moving towards the next step, that is crop production management. Basically, we are nurturing our crops, we are taking care of them, we are giving them the nutrients, we are giving them the particular water for the purpose of their growth so that we have maximum, right? So let's discuss now about the crop production management. Okay, let's move on. All right, let's begin. We have crop production management now, right? Once we are managing, so basically yes, we are taking care of different aspects so as to obtain the maximum and the best yield, which I have already told you. So in this crop production management, we have to take care of the three things, that is the nutrients management, then the irrigation, and lastly we have cropping patterns. We're going to take each one in detail one by one, right? So let's get started. The very first thing, if we talk about the nutrients, what do we mean by the nutrients? What are nutrients? What do you mean by the nutrients? Why do you consume nutrients? Why do you consume, let alone the crops? Why are you consuming the nutrients? Yes, you are consuming the nutrients for your nourishment, for your growth, for your development, right? So similarly, plants also need all of that. They need that growth, they need that development. So basically, these are the substances which are important for the nourishment of the plant, are required for nourishment of the plant, right? And plant. Now, if we talk about these nutrients, so basically plants require 16 nutrients which are essential for their growth, right? Plants require 16 nutrients. There are 16 essential nutrients which are required by the plant for their growth, right? 16 total nutrients. Out of these 16 nutrients, 3 plant get it from the air and water, right? Out of these 16, 3 plant is getting from the water and air, and rest 13 plant get it from the soil. So yes, soil is such an important reservoir for the nutrients. Out of total 16 essential nutrients, 13 plants is getting from the soil only. Now, why I am calling these nutrients as essential? Why they are required? Because if these nutrients are not there, if these nutrients deficiency will be there, less amount will be available for the plant, then the plant growth will be affected, the plant's reproduction will be affected, the plant will be catching the disease very easily, right? So they are very much required, because I can say the deficiency, their deficiency will affect the plant physiological functions. What do you mean by the plant physiological functions, ma'am? What is word? What is this word, ma'am? Okay, ma'am is gonna tell you what are these physiological functions. The growth, the development, the reproduction, right? So I can say the growth will be affected, the reproduction will be affected, and also yes, they will become more susceptible to the diseases, right? They will be catching the disease very easily, they won't be able to resist it, right? Susceptibility to the diseases. So yes, these nutrients are very important, and hence we need to manage them. We need to manage how much nutrients we are giving, which quality of nutrients is giving, or maybe the timing once we are giving them. So that is nutrient management. So nutrient management basically is nothing but your, right, this is the definition. Nutrient management. What is nutrient management? Nutrient management is nothing but how we are controlling which nutrient to give, how much amount we are giving, and also the timing. So that was about the nutrient management. Now let us see what are the nutrients which plants get it from the air, water and soil. We talk about the air. From the air, plant gets the carbon and oxygen. So here we have from the air, the plant gets carbon and oxygen. Very important. Definitely a question comes from this particular topic. I am marking some stars here so that you remember it. Very important, right? Clearly dictates, right? It's very important. So water, we get hydrogen and oxygen, and lastly from the soil we get 13 nutrients. Out of those 13 nutrients, plants require 6 in very large amount, and hence called as the macronutrients. So there are total 6 in number which are required in large amount. Hence the name macro. Why the word macro? Because they are required in large amount, and out of those 13, 7 they are required in lesser amount, and hence called as micronutrient. So the 7 are required in lesser amount by the plant, and hence they are called as micronutrients, right? In the macronutrients we have the NPK, right? That is the nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium, and also we have calcium, magnesium and sulfur. Calcium, magnesium and sulfur, these all are the macronutrients, right? NPK, calcium, magnesium, sulfur. NPK, calcium, magnesium, sulfur, right? And also in the micronutrients we have iron, manganese, molybdenum, chlorine, copper, zinc and boron. So these are your micronutrients. Now I'll be like, ma'am, we have to remember it. Yes, 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 you have to remember it. Definitely a question comes from this topic, either micro, macro, or maybe from the air or water. Definitely, that is why I marked the stars here. You have to remember these names by heart. You cannot afford to miss these, right? So that was about the nutrients. Yes, we need nutrients, because if it's not there, the growth will be affected, the development will be affected, and we are getting majorly the 13 of them out of the 16 from the soil, right? Few in large and few in lesser amount. That was about the nutrient management. Now, what are manures and fertilizers? You have already studied this in your class 8th though, but just let me give a recap of it. So basically guys, let's say I am growing a crop, right? This is a field, and in this field I am growing a crop, right? And I have provided nutrients into, right? I have provided nutrients to. We have good amount of nutrients in the soil. So what happens? Let's say one plant is growing, right? One sort of plant is growing, and this plant is going to consume the nutrients, right? I have grown, this is the first year of my plant growth, and this plant is gonna come and take away some of the nutrients. It will take away some of the nutrients. Then let's say I have harvested it, and then I have grown second round of crops. The second round of crops will come and take more nutrients. It will come and more nutrients. What about the third round or the fourth round? Will it have sufficient nutrients? No. If we grow again and again crops in a single piece of land, it will lead to the deficiency of nutrients. Then how are we going to replenish these nutrients? How are we going to provide those nutrients into the soil? That will be done by adding the manures and fertilizers. So basically manures and fertilizers are the substances which will provide the nutrients for the growth of the plant. You have seen nutrients are required, and if these nutrients are vanishing, if they are taken away by the plants again and again, so yes, we have to supply them, right? So basically the pink colored thing which I have drawn are nothing but the nutrients, right? So yes, if we are going to grow the crops in the same soil year after year, it's going to withdraw the nutrients from the soil. So basically I can say manure and fertilizers, they're going to replenish, they're going to give that nutrients back to the soil, right? They're going to replenish the nitrogen deficient soil. It's going to replenish the nutrients in the nutrient deficient soil, right? Is it clear, guys? Is it making sense to you? I'm taking it in a flow, right? What we are doing, nutrients, what is nutrient management, what are the different nutrients, what happens if they are not there, and how we are supplying them, all of them is going in a flow. Please focus here, right? Alright, so that was the need to supply the manures and fertilizers. Now what are manures? You already know. They are organic substances. How they are formed? They are formed by the breakdown, by the decomposition of the dead remains of plants and animals, right? So basically these are the manures, are the organic substances, and how they are formed. They are formed once going to take the plant waste and animal excreta, right? You have taken the plant waste and animal excreta. Let's say you have taken the fallen leaves, or maybe you have taken the cow dung, right? You have taken maybe your eradicated weeds, right? Maybe a plant has fallen, maybe a animal waste is there, cow dung is there. You have taken that and you're going to decompose that. Decomposition means simply breakdown. What do we mean by decomposing? Decomposing means breakdown, right? That is what we are saying, that these plant waste and animals, they are broken down. Now, who breaking down these plants and animals, the dead remains of plant and animals? This will be done by the microorganisms. Basically, it will be done by the fungus. It will be done by the bacteria, right? Bacteria and fungus is going to break down the plant remains and the animal remains into the smaller substances, and by the decomposition, yes, we form the manure. So manures are formed by the decomposition of the plant waste and animal excreta. Now, what is this manure? This manure is going to basically release the nutrients, but the nutrients are released very slowly. Yes, it's going to release the nutrients, but it's going to release the nutrients slowly, right? So I can say provide nutrients to the soil, right? It will provide nutrients to the soil. Now, okay, good to go. Manure is great. But what are the advantages of manure? What are the disadvantages of manure? Let's have a look at it, right? So now we'll be seeing the advantages and disadvantages of the manure. Advantage, yes, it will be releasing nutrients, so it will be increasing the fertility of the soil, right? It will be supporting the plant growth. Also, we can say the manures is providing the humus, right? Manures provide humus, and humus, we can say, it improves the texture of the soil, right? Humus improves the texture of the soil. What do we mean by improving the texture of the soil? So basically, the soil is becoming more porous. The soil become more porous, and also I can say it increases the water holding capacity. It increases the water holding capacity. Okay, ma'am, what all have you said? What all have I said? Let me repeat it. So basically, yes, this advantage of the manure is they provide that organic matter as the humus into the soil. Humus basically partially decompose the plant and animal dead remains, and this humus will release the nutrients the soil very slowly, and basically this humus is going to do two things. It's going to improve the porous, right? That is, it's going to make the soil more porous. It's going to make pores into the soil. So what happens if the soil is porous? The soil is porous, the roots can easily penetrate into the soil. The roots can easily breathe. If it is more porous, the roots can easily penetrate and also can be, yes, breathing easily. And also improves the water holding capacity, that is, the soil will be able to hold that water and then obviously going to absorb that water for their benefit, right? So that was about the purpose, or shall I say the advantages of the manure. Remember, you're not maybe spending much amount of money on it, because it is very cheap. You're preparing it in your fields, right? These are prepared in the fields. These are prepared in the fields, so therefore they are very cheap, right? You are not buying it from the factories. They are very cheap. So these are some of the advantages which are mentioned here. We then moving to the disadvantages. Now it's good. Manure is good, right? Improving the fertility, making the soil porous, water holding capacity is all good. But is there any disadvantage? Yes, there are disadvantages. Very first thing, that these manures, they are very bulky. Therefore it is very difficult for them to stored or to use them or to transport them. Since they are bulky, therefore it is difficult to use, transport and store them. What other disadvantage do they have, right? So apart from them being bulky, that is, they are releasing the nutrients slowly. So if the demand of the plant is very huge and very quick, they won't be able to satisfy that demand. Hence they are releasing the nutrients, but releasing very slowly. One very important disadvantage is that they are not nutrient specific. Suppose the plant is very choosy, picky, right? And let's say the soil is deficient in nitrogen. A plant is like, I need nitrogen. Soil is not having nitrogen. Okay, can manure fix this property? No, manure will not help if a particular, or shall I say, a specific nutrient is required. In case of this situation, we can say manure plays a disadvantage here, because it will not overcome the nitrogen deficiency in that particular soil. Why I am saying only nitrogen, maybe phosphorus, maybe potassium. If the plant need only potassium, only phosphorus, only maybe sulfur, right, any nutrient which is needed, it is not going to provide it specifically, right? Yeah, that was about it. So yes, they are not very easily absorbed, they are not nutrient specific, and yes, they have very less amount of nutrients, right? What do we mean by that? What do we mean by that? So guys, have you seen at home, once you are having chapatis, your mother has made very thin, light chapatis, right? So even if you eat 4 of them, you will be like, ma'am, I am not being, right, I am still hungry after eating 3 chapatis, 4 chapatis. But if you talk about pizza, or maybe the laddus which our mother makes, so even if you make 2 of those laddus, the ghee laddus which are filled with those dry fruits and all, even if you eat 1 laddu, you are full. Similarly, even if you eat a 1 full pizza, you are full. What happens, basically similar with the manures are like that chapati, you need more. That is, they have manures, they have less nitrogen, or shall I say, they have less nutrients in them. The amount of nutrients in them is less. Let's say this amount of manure is having only 10 nutrients. Now you need more. How are you going to supply that? You're going to give more amount of manure. So basically, manures are the one which are very less concentrated. They have less amount of nutrients. Hence, if we have to satisfy the demand of the plant, we have to supply the manure in the large amount, right? They are required in the large quantity. That was about the types of the advantages and disadvantages. Now we move to the types. Now we are coming to the types of the manure. So basically, manure is of 2 types, that is the compost and the green manure. What do we mean by compost and the green manure? So basically, if we take the plants, right, I am taking my plant and animal waste. What sort of waste I am taking, guys? What sort of waste I am taking of plants and animals? Just right now I mentioned back that yes, we can take, maybe cow dung is there, maybe we can say the eradicated weeds are there. The weeds basically are the nothing but the unwanted plants, the plants which we do not want in our field. We have removed them and we can take these plants into the compost method. How we are doing it, I'm going to tell you. So we have taken the cow dung, we have taken maybe the vegetable waste, we have taken the sewage waste. So we have taken different sorts of waste, and what we are doing, we are putting them in a pit which we have dug into the ground. So in the ground, I have dug a pit, and I'm going to add all of this into a pit which I have dug into the ground, right? So if I add all of these substances, if I'm going to leave it for few months, what happens after then? After, let's say, 3 to 6 months, what happens? What happens after 3 to 6 months? Yes, there will be formation of manure, and the type of the manure which will be formed via this method, I am going to call it as compost. I'm going to call it as compost, and this process of formation of the compost is called as composting. This process of formation of the compost is called as composting. And if I'm going to do this composting with the help of earthworm, we're going to call it as vermicomposting. Easy, right? If I'm going to do this compost with the help of, or shall I say via, with earthworm, then I am going to call it as vermicomposting. Vermicomposting. Clear? Clear, everyone? Just tell me if it is clear or not, right? So if we have dug a pit and put our waste into it and we're going to leave it for a few months, we're going to find a type of manure called as compost is formed. This process is called as composting. If you're going to use the earthworm, this process is called as vermicomposting. Earthworm basically going to loosen and turn the soil more, right? They're going to degrade it more. So basically I can say they are going to make that process more quick. Right? They're going to make the process more quick. They're going to make the process more faster. So that was about the composting and vermicomposting. Now let us see another type of manure called as the green manure or the plant manure. Now let's say I want to grow cereal, right? I want to grow any wheat. So prior to growing any wheat, the main seed crop, I am going to grow a leguminous plant, right? So let's say this is my season 1, and in season 1 what I am going to do, I am going to grow, let's say, my leguminous plants. And in the season 2, I am going to grow my cereals. Now, what are leguminous plants, ma'am? What are these leguminous plants? What do we mean by it? Leguminous plant, for example, we have pea, we have gram. Now, what are these plants? So, why I have written that we go these plants first? Because these plants, they have, going to look into these plants. Let's say this is the plant, right? In the roots, they have some swollen structure. In the roots, they have some swollen structure, and those swollen structures are called as root nodules. Root nodules. What are these root nodules doing? So basically, the swollen structures are called as nodules. Since these nodules are present in the root, we're going to call them as root nodules. Now, these root nodules have bacteria. These root nodules have bacteria in them. And which kind of bacteria? This bacteria is rhizobium bacteria. Rhizobium bacteria. What is so special about this bacteria? Now, see, plants get the atmospheric nitrogen, right? They have nitrogen in the atmosphere, but do plants actually take that atmospheric nitrogen? Answer is no. They cannot use the nitrogen present in the atmosphere. Then what sort of nitrogen do they use? So basically they use the useful form of nitrogen like nitrate, nitrite, ammonia. Now how plants get these usable form? So this bacteria is like the friend of the plants in that sense, because this bacteria is doing what? It is converting the atmospheric nitrogen into the usable nitrogen. It is converting the atmospheric nitrogen into usable nitrogen. That is now the plant can. So basically here the plant and the bacteria are in a symbiotic relationship. What is a symbiotic relationship? A give and take relationship. Let's say you have forgot to brought a red pen in the class, but your friend is carrying the red pen. So you will be like, okay, you give me the red pen and I will be giving you the blue pen maybe, right? So it's a give and take relationship, right? Similarly, here also give and take relationship is there. That is, plant is getting what? What is bacteria giving to the plant? Bacteria is giving the nitrogen to the plant. What is plant giving to the bacteria? Plant is giving the shelter to the bacteria. Plant is giving food to the bacteria. So yes, we are growing first the leguminous plant so that the soil is enriched with the nutrients, right? We are growing a leguminous plant so that the soil is enriched with nutrients, and then yes, we can grow maybe our cereals. But where is the manure, ma'am? Where is the manure? So once we grow the leguminous plant, okay, the nitrogen has been fixed and the nitrogen is available in the soil. Then we're going to plow these plants into the soil only. We're going to plow these plants into the soil, and yes, then these plants will be dead, and they will be dead. That will be acting as a waste and again converted into a manure. right? So what we are doing prior to growing our main seed, we are growing plants like sun hemp and guar. Basically we want to grow other leguminous plant, and then basically what we are doing, we are plowing them into the soil, and these green plants, they turn into manure. Since these green plants make up the manure, we call such type of manure as green manure, right? That was about the types of manure. Let's move towards the fertilizers, right? Let's move. All right, moving towards the fertilizers. Okay. Now, fertilizers are unlike manures. They are the chemical substances which we are making them in our factories, right? So these are the chemical substances, and these substances we are going to prepare them in a factories, right? Prepared in factories. Now, unlike manures, they are also nutrient specific. They are nutrient specific. That is, if the soil is deficient in a particular nutrient, that can be overcome by the fertilizers. They are going to release the nutrients very quickly into the soil, and hence can be taken by the plants very quickly. So it is going to support the growth of the plants, right? So they are nutrient specific, they are water soluble, hence absorbed by the plant very easily, and also they are not bulky like manure, so it will be very easy to store them, transport them, and obviously use them, right? That was about advantages. If we move towards the disadvantage, it is good, but if you're going to use them in large amount, they can kill the good microbes of the soil, hence decreasing the soil fertility, right? Everything in amount, a good amount is good, right? We have to keep a balance in life also, right? You have to keep a balance of playing your games, or maybe watching different sort of reels on Instagram, and also studying. You have to keep a balance. If you're not going to keep that balance, obviously you're going to score very less marks. Similarly, here also we have to keep a balance. If that balance is not there of fertilizer, if you're going to use them in large amount, it can kill the microbes, and also it can lead to decreasing the soil fertility. Also, I can say it can lead to water pollution as well, right? Water pollution as well. That was about it. It can be damaging for the environment. It can cause different sorts of pollution, right? So that was about fertilizers. If you want to write few examples, maybe you can write here. NPK. What is NPK? Yes, I told you back only: nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Right? These are the disadvantages of manures and fertilizers. Manures are natural substances, right? And fertilizers are commercially synthesized chemical substances. Manures have low nutrient content. Fertilizers are having large amount of content. They are having humus. Fertilizers do not provide any humus. It is environment friendly. Obviously fertilizers are not environment friendly because they cause the water pollution and the soil pollution, and also we have discussed that it is increasing the soil texture by making it more hydrated and aerated, and lastly it can improve the soil texture, but the fertilizers are going to cause the soil pollution. They are going to increase the soil fertility, so not certainly as great as manure in that sense, right? In case of the pollution, right, it's going to damage. Now we come to organic farming. So as to overcome the use of these chemical fertilizers, right, all the disadvantage of the fertilizer, so as to overcome it, we are coming with the organic farming. Organic farming is basically what we are doing. It's a farming where we are using very less or maybe ultimately no use of the chemicals, right? So either the minimum, or we can say no use of chemical substances. Minimal or no use of chemical substances. Now if you're not using the chemical substances like herbicides, like insecticides, pesticides, or maybe fertilizers, if you're not using these chemical substances, then what we are using? We will be using manures. We will be using different cropping patterns. Now you will be like, ma'am, what are cropping patterns? We're going to discuss that also. So yes, we can use cropping patterns. And instead of these fertilizers and pesticide, we can use biofertilizer, biopesticides. Now I have already told you what do you mean by this word bio. Bio means living. So once we are using living organism to nourish the soil with the nutrients. Few moments back I told you, yes, there are certain bacteria which can provide nitrogen to the soil. They convert the atmospheric nitrogen into usable form. So yes, we can use those bacteria, right? So basically the living organism which enrich the soil with the nutrients. We are providing the soil with the nutrients, and here we can give the example of maybe BGA. What is BGA? Blue green algae. Blue green algae, right? It can fix the nitrogen. And then we have biopesticide. Again, bio means living. So yes, pesticide, see the word side, this word comes from to kill, right? So that is basically the living organisms which we are using to kill the pest. Whom we are killing? We are killing the pest. Pest as in the organisms which damage the crop, the insects, right? So biopesticides, have you ever seen your mother using neem leaves or maybe the turmeric, the haldi, so as to store the grains? Yes, we can use those methods so as to kill or maybe repel the pest or the insect, right? So I can say the living organisms or maybe their extract to kill or repel the pest, right? The example can be the neem leaves and the turmeric for the storage of the grains, right? For grain storage, what we are doing, we are using the neem leaves as well as the turmeric so as to store the grains which are going to obviously kill or maybe repel the pest, right? We are side means kill, pest means the organism which damage the, right? Bio for the living because we are using living organisms for that, right? Easy about organic farming. So we are not using chemicals and we are all thing organic. We are switching manures, different cropping patterns, or biopesticide or biofertilizers. So that was about the organic farming. Moving ahead towards the cropping patterns. Few moments back only I told you, yes, there can be different cropping patterns which can use for the organic farming. What are these cropping patterns? So the name itself says the pattern for the crops. The pattern for the crops. Basically, we are growing the crops in a particular pattern, right? We will be taking 2 or more than 2 crops and we are growing them in a particular pattern, right? Now, let us see the 3 types, that is the mixed crop, intercropping and crop rotation. Mixed crop, intercropping and crop rotation. Let's see each one of them. If we talk about the mixed cropping, let's say you have taken 2 seeds or maybe more seeds and you have mixed their seeds and then you have sown them into the soil, right? That is why the name mixed cropping. You have taken 2 or more seeds, you have mixed them and then you have sown the soil, right? Let's say this is your land, right? In this you have grown maybe gram is there, right? Or maybe wheat is here. Gram, wheat, then wheat, maybe gram. Could you see here? You have grown the seeds in a particular pattern. Is there any pattern? You have just mixed them and sown them. There is no specific pattern which you have followed. But yes, you have grown 2 or more types of the crops on a single piece of land. Now you have to remember, these 2 crops should not be competitive, right? Whenever in the lab or maybe in lab have just made that these 2 students will do this project together or maybe any assignment given to the 2 students, teacher is going to nutrients who are not gonna be enemy to each other, who are not gonna compete with each other only. Similarly, we have to take these two crops such that there is no competition among them. These two crops are not competing for maybe water, sunlight, or maybe nutrients. That is, they should be having, yes, they should be having differences in them. Therefore, what we have done, for example, we have taken a wheat or a gram, or maybe we have taken wheat or mustard, or maybe we have taken groundnut or sunflower. So basically, we are taking two different kinds of crop. One require maybe large water, one require less water. One is leguminous plant, one is not, right? Wheat is not, gram is a leguminous plant. We have taken in such a way that yes, nutrients will be provided. Why I have said this? Remember, gram is a leguminous plant. It will fix the nitrogen, it will provide nitrogen to the wheat. So yes, we have to supply less nutrients also into the soil. What else benefit do we have? Let's say there is a pest. There is a pest which infect only gram. There is a pest which infect only gram. So that pest won't be able to damage whole of the crop, because yes, let's say this pest won't be able to damage the wheat also, because generally one type of pest affect the one type of crops only. It's not like one pest will affect all the different types of crops. One pest is generally associated with one type of crop only. So the pest is not going to find the gram nearby. It's only going to affect the gram here, then it's going to stop, because it's not going to maybe find the gram nearby, and rest of the crops are still good. Also, we are taking such that their water requirements are also different. Let's say one require more water, one require less water. Let's say in this season, very large amount of rainfall has happened. So obviously the one which require very less water, it is going to die. But still, we are going to get one crop which requires less water, right? So basically, at least during extreme climatic condition, one crop is actually saved, right? So that was about the pest. Also, we can say different types of pest, diseases, and weed. Pest, diseases, and weeds, they associate with specific crops only, right? So they're not going to find the nearby crop which they're going to affect. So they're going to stop going throughout the field, right? That is what happens in intercropping. In intercropping, yes, we are taking a field, and in this field we are growing two or more crops. But how we are growing, right? Suppose I am growing soya bean and maize, right? This is my soya bean. Then maybe I am growing soya beans. Then I am growing the maize one. So what you are seeing? Are you seeing something? Is there a particular pattern here? Yes, ma'am, there is a pattern here. We could see that you are growing these crops, and again, maybe you can grow the soya bean again, right? So basically what you are doing, we are growing the crops in a definite pattern, in the sense we are growing two or more crops, but we are growing them in a definite row alternatively, right? Let's say we have few rows of soya bean, then we have few rows of the maize, and again we have few rows of the soya bean. So that is why, again, the same thing I can say in the mixed cropping, whatever advantages we are having, that the pests were infecting less, the diseases were less, the weeds were less. Also, we can say we can choose the leguminous, one crop can be non-leguminous, so that there is no competition. And also we need to supply less fertilizers, because obviously the leguminous plant will be providing those demands to the other plant, right? Could you think of any disadvantage of the mixed cropping which is like overcoming in intercropping? Can you think? Yes. So if we want to harvest these crops, they will be difficult. We cannot harvest them at the same time, since they have different types of crops. How are you going to harvest? Let's say you want to harvest gram, right? You want to cut one crop at one time. No, right? It will be difficult. So I can say improvised version of mixed cropping is intercropping, where you can perform the harvesting very efficiently, hence saving the time as well as the labor. So I can say intercropping is just a better version of the mixed cropping. So these are the advantage I have told you. In the extreme climatic condition also, there is no risk of the complete failure. Yes, the yield is increased because what we are doing, we are growing a non-leguminous cereal plant with a leguminous plant, right? So obviously the leguminous plant will fix the nitrogen, and also I can say variety of products can be harvested from a single field, and it will reduce the pest infestation. And similarly, in intercropping, one benefit which can be seen here, that the harvesting can be done separately, right? This was not possible in the mixed cropping. Rest almost are the same, right? Productivity increasing, the sowing is done separately, no mixing of the crop, fertilizers are supplied less, and also pesticides. Right, so that was about the mixed cropping and intercropping, their advantages and disadvantages. We have seen everything. The last one is the crop rotation. There is the crop rotation one. Okay, it's here, right? Crop rotation is something we have already seen, right? First season, let's say I am growing my leguminous plant. What is leguminous plant going to do? Ma'am, it is going to fix the nitrogen, make the nitrogen available for the plant. Next season, I am going to do what? I am going to maybe grow my cereal plant, or I should say non-leguminous plant, right? So that the nitrogen is already available and I have to give less fertilizers into the soil, right? So the practice of growing different crops on a piece of land in a pre-planned succession, right? These are the advantages, that it will prevent the soil depletion, it will increase the soil fertility, it will again control insect, mites and pests. Now you'll be like, ma'am, how? In one season, let's say a pest has infected, the leguminous plant. But the next season, the pest is not going to find the same plant. The plant will be non-leguminous. Now this pest cannot infect it, right? So yes, we can say that in this way also the pest infestation is decreased, because one type of the pest is generally associated with the one type of the plant only, right? That was about your cropping methods: mixed cropping, intercropping and crop rotation, mixing and then sowing, intercropping, growing them in specific rows, and lastly we have the crop rotation where we are growing them in a specific manner. That is, first we are growing the leguminous and then we are growing the non-leguminous plants. These are the disadvantages of the differences between the mixed cropping and intercropping. So mixed cropping, basically we are mixing the seeds. I have told you here, obviously they are not mixed and they are sowing separately, right? There is no pattern as such here, but obviously we are sowing them in specific rows, right? Alternative rows are favored. It minimizes the risk of crop failure, it increases the crop productivity, it also, we can say, only a common type of fertilizer is added. Specific fertilizer can be provided. What do we mean by this point, guys? See again, let's say my gram needs nitrogen, right? Or maybe my gram needs sulfur. But the other plant, wheat, let's say, need phosphorus. Can I supply different fertilizers here? If this needs phosphorus, if this needs sulfur, can I supply? It will be so difficult. Are you going to a one single crop and nearby to it you give fertilizers? Not possible. Here you can give nitrogen, phosphorus, sulfur. You can give different types of fertilizer, but here it's not possible, right? That was about it. Yes, harvesting will be difficult for all the crops. Here we can then easily harvesting, right? So that was about your cropping patterns and the difference. The last point for crop production management is irrigation, right? We have discussed the nutrient management, we have discussed the cropping patterns. Now let's move to the irrigation. Okay, now starting with irrigation. Now if we talk about irrigation, basically you all know that plants require water. So the supply of the water to the crops is called as irrigation. Obviously, it's not like, do you drink water only once a day? No, ma'am, we drink it alternatively, let's say after every half an hour, whenever we feel thirsty. Similarly, if we talk about water to the crops as well, we have to give them at regular intervals, right? So basically the process of supplying water to the crops by means of canals, reservoirs and wells. Basically, from where do we get the water? What are the sources of that water? That sources are mentioned, the canals and the wells. So this is irrigation. Now, why do we need irrigation? Why do we need to give water to the plants? Why do they need water? So we saw a few moments back that, ma'am, yes, from the water we get two essential nutrients, hydrogen and oxygen. So can we write it? So I can say water provides hydrogen and oxygen. What else? What else, guys? What else is provided by water? So I can say water is also required for the germination process. What is germination process? The process by which the seed develops into a plant. This process is called as germination, and germination also requires water, right? The process from which the seed is converted into a seedling, basically a baby plant. What is seedling? A baby plant. What else? Why do we need water? Yes, water is required for the growth and development, for the purpose of growth, right? We require it for the of For what else do we need this water? Minerals. If I talk about how plants take minerals, so suppose this is the plant, right? This is my plant. My plant is growing here, and I have supplied nutrients into the soil, right? Soil. So plant actually absorb these nutrients along with the water, and once the water is being transported, in the plant body, the nutrients will also be transported along with water. So I can mention here the water helps in absorption and transport of the minerals. Water helps in absorption as well as transportation of minerals. These are few of the importance or needs of water. Why plant need water? I hope it is clear. Let's move a little bit ahead. Now, what is rain-fed agriculture? The name itself says that mostly in India, most of the agriculture is rain-fed only, means it is dependent on rainfall. What do I mean by it? That is, yes, if rainfall is gonna come, then we can say crop is going to be success there. But if yes, there is less rainfall, or shall I say drought is there, then I would say it will lead to the crop failure, right? So I can say it will depend on the rain, and also it will depend on the, it depends on the time as well as the sufficient rainfall, right? It's not like only once rain is coming, or maybe very less rainfall is coming. So we can say it will depend on the timing and sufficient rainfall. Basically, no rainfall will lead to crop failure. It will lead to crop failure, right? Crops are not gonna grow because they require water for the purpose of their growth. Now guys, remember one more thing, that there are certain soils, like the sandy soils, the dry soils basically, which cannot hold much amount of water, which have a very less water retention capacity. If they already cannot hold the water, they do not have the water, plus rainfall is less, what will happen to them? They are going to be damaged. So I can say the light soils, they have less water retention capacity. So if can retain very less amount of rainfall, they require continuous supply of water. So in this case, if there is no rainfall, or shall I say very less rainfall, that is if drought is there, if drought is there, then it will lead to crop failure. The crops will be affected. Now scientists will be like, this is it's a very big issue. How are we going to deal with this? So scientists are very clever. They'll be like, we are going to develop a crop which is tolerable the drought. It can tolerate the drought condition. Isn't it great? The scientists have developed what they have developed? They have developed drought resistant variety, right? They can satisfactorily live in this condition. That was about your rain-fed agriculture. Let's move ahead towards the different types of the sources of the irrigation. That is, we get it from the wells, canals, river lift system and the tanks. You have discussed about them many more times. We fill the water, then canals, some networks of tubes are there, then obviously they are lifting from the river, and obviously tank, the reservoirs are there. So not wasting much of time here, you can have a look at it. Let's move ahead. So now we move to the third type. We are done with the crop variety improvement, crop production management. Now we are moving towards the last part of the increasing crop yield basically, and that comes the crop protection, right? We are protecting our crop. Now crop needs protection from what? Crop needs protection from the pest, from the weeds, from the diseases, right? So I can say it needs the protection from the weeds, from the pest, from the diseases, right? What are the pests? Pests are the destructive organisms which are going to damage the crops and make them unfit for human consumption. Then we cannot use them very efficiently, right? Pests are nothing but the destructive organisms which are going to damage the crop and make them unfit for human consumption, right? If you're going to consume the crops which are infected by a pest, obviously what will happen? You're going to be affected, right? It's going to be toxic. That are the pests. Now these pests basically can be an insect, like all the grasshoppers can come, the rodents, right? All these will act like a pest. Now how these pests affect the crop? Either they chew the insect, right? Chew the plant, not the insect. It cut the different plant parts, right? Either they are just cutting different plant parts, maybe the leaves, the stems, right? Or the sucking insect which suck the cell sap. Cell sap, basically the fluid of the cell, the water and the minerals present in a cell is called as the cell sap. So if they are sucking the cell sap from the different parts of the plant, different plant parts, or either what they're going to do, they're going to bore a hole, they're going to make a hole basically in maybe the fruit or the stem, right? So I can say they bore a hole in and stem. So basically the mode of action of these pests can be different, either just cutting them or maybe sucking the cell sap or maybe making a hole. So these insects obviously going to affect the plants in different ways. They have their different modes of attacking. Now how we can control them? How we can control them? We can use insecticide, fungicide or herbicide. Basically what we are doing, we are using the pesticide. All of them are nothing but pesticide. I have already told you, side means kill. So pesticides are the chemical substances which are killing the particular pest, right? Insecticide which will kill the insects. Fungicide will basically kill the fungus. And herbicide, yes, you guessed it right. Ma'am, it's going to kill the herbs, right? So basically these are nothing but the chemical substances which are going to kill the pest. But how the farmer is going to give that to the plants? It's just going to spray that onto the crops. Remember, if they are supplied in large amount, it can be harmful for the plants and animals, and also can lead to the pollution. Yes, so I can say these are nothing but the chemical substances which are going to kill the pest, and they are sprayed on the crops, right? And if they are used in large amount, the large amount of these can lead to pollution, as well as can be toxic for the plants and animals, right? So again, these are the chemical substances, right, which can be damaging if they are used in the large amount. Again, as I've told you, we have to keep that balance. That balance is very important. Balance is the key, right? Let's move ahead towards the next topic of weeds. I told you that the plants need protection from the weeds, insect, pests and diseases. We have completed the pests. We are moving towards the weeds now, right? What are the weeds? Now let's say, guys, I am growing wheat in my land, right? This is my wheat crop, but instead of wheat crop, there are some other crops also growing, which I don't want them. I have not grown them. So these unwanted, uncultivated plants are called as weeds. Unwanted plants which go along with the cultivated crop is called as weeds. So we have different types of weeds. For example, xanthium for Goku, parthenium for gajar ghas, Cyperinus rotundus for the motha. So these are the different types of weeds. Now you will be like, ma'am, okay, let the weed be there. How they can be damaging? How they can be damaging? Because they are like your competitors. They are the competitors of the plant. Just imagine you have ordered a very good pizza for you, but there is another friend is coming and that person will be like, give me the pizza. You'll be like, give me the pizza. What will happen? You won't get sufficient pizza. And if you don't get sufficient pizza, what will happen? Then you'll be like, ma'am, I'm still hungry. Similarly, if you're going to give the water to the soil, you're going to give the nutrients to the soil, there will be competition between the main crop and the weeds. And obviously, the weeds are going to get the less amount of nutrients and water. And ultimately, its growth will be affected, right? So, can I say that it will compete with main crop for the purpose of light, for the purpose of space, for the purpose of water, for the purpose of nutrients? There will be competition, and therefore the growth will be affected. The growth of the main crop will be affected. What else? What are the ill effects of weed? So some weeds can also release some harmful substance, and those harmful substance will then be damaging for the main crop, right? So I can say here that the weeds, they release toxic substances, toxic as in harmful substances, right? The substances which can damage the main crop. Again, I can say the growth will be affected. This point remains the same. The growth will be affected. Also, let's say I want to harvest my main crop. So while I'm harvesting, I'm going to get these weeds also again. So I can say it will cause issues in the harvesting process also. Affect the harvesting also. So it's not good. Weeds are not your best friends. You have to remove the weeds. The removal of the weeds is called as the weeding, right? So this process of removal of a crop from a crop field, this process is called as weeding. How you can remove the weeds? Either you can remove it mechanically, maybe you can pull out of your hand, right? You can pull out of the ground using hands, right? Via your hand, or maybe via the plow. Do you remember you have studied in your class 8? If not, get a recap of that, right? So basically we can use it via a plow or maybe a seed drill. All these substances, all these instruments, all these machines, all these tools are going to remove the weeds mechanically, physically, or simply cultural method. You remember while we were practicing the cropping patterns, right? Those were not allowing the weeds to grow. So I can say maybe different cropping patterns. Different cropping pattern. Right? So basically we can prevent them, as I've already told you. We can do the intercropping, we can do the crop rotation, and also we can do the seed bed preparation or timely sowing of crops. These are the methods by which we can prevent the weeds, right? So that was about the weeding. And lastly, we have these diseases. Do you remember the 3 points which we discussed here? Weeds done, insect pests done. Now we are moving towards the diseases. So you know pathogens are the organism which causes diseases, right? Disease causing organisms are called as pathogens, and these organisms can be a bacteria, can be a virus, can be a fungus, and they can spread from the soil, water or air, right? So I can say disease causing microorganisms are called as pathogens. What are the disease causing microorganisms? Bacteria, viruses, fungus. Yes, very good, right? So we have bacteria, we have a virus, we have fungus, right? All these microorganisms, they cause diseases, right? And where are these microorganisms? These organisms, they are present in the air, water and, right? So yes, they can be transmitted via the air, via the water, via the soil. That was about pathogens, and we have discussed these also in detail, right? Now moving to the last part. While we are storing, why do you need to store the plants? Is there any need to store our crops? Yes, because if there is a seasonal crop, I want to consume it throughout the year, right? If there is a watermelon, I want to have watermelon throughout the year. Why only through the months of the summers, the Junes and the May? I want it throughout the year. So that is the basic purpose, that you want certain crops not only seasonally but throughout the year. That is why you are storing, right? You are storing, and once you are storing, you have to make sure they are not getting damaged by abiotic and abiotic factors. What are the biotic factors? Biotic as in, you know it, yes, living factors, right? For example, you know rodents, you know bacteria, fungus, insect, they all can damage the crops while you are storing them, right? While you are storing them, they can damage the crops. So you have to protect them from this also. Also abiotic. Abiotic means, yes, non-living. For example, you have to protect them from the temperature, the humidity, moisture, right? I can mention here temperature, moisture. You have to protect them from this also. We must have seen our mothers doing what they do with the wheat. What they do, they wash them very nicely, they clean them, and then go in the sun, and then they dry them. And once they have dried them in the sun, they're going to come and dry them in the shade and then store it, right? So what they are doing basically, they are cleaning it and drying it, right? First clean it, clean, then we're going to dry it. Where we are drying? We are drying in the sunlight. Then we are going to dry it in the shade, and ultimately we are going to store it, right? That will the procedure followed. You must have seen your mother's cleaning your grains, right? Next we move to safe and proper storage. Once we are storing them, we are making sure that wherever we are storing, it is airtight container, right? That is, if I am storing in a godown, that godown is not having any leaks, right? Or it's not open, so I can say it should be airtight containers. Also, while I am storing them, I am making sure that yes, there are no pests there. What I am doing, I am using irrigation, right? Basically, we are using chemical substances in the form of fumes which are going to kill the pathogen, right? So I am doing the fumigation, that is basically using, and these fumes are nothing but they're going to have chemical substances acting like pesticide, right? They are the pesticides which are going to kill the pest while you are storing them in a airtight container, right? More the moisture, generally more is the growth of these microorganisms, hence we do not want that. Now you'll be like, ma'am, let the crops be damaged, right? Why do we want them to be perfectly stored, right? Now I'll tell you why do them very carefully, because if you're not going to store them very carefully, they will become hollow, they will become very light, their color will fade, right? So that is basically, you are not going to sell them properly, they will be unfit for human consumption. So it's not like that, okay, they are good to go. No, they will be damaged, you won't be able to consume it, they will become light, right? So basically it will lead to decrease in the quality, loss in the weight, poor germinability, they won't be able to germinate, the color is going to fade, and all this will lead to poor marketability. You are not going to sell these because they are damaged, they are unfit for human consumption. So yes, we require proper storage of the grains. So that was all about it. Okay, that was about the crop part. Now finally we are moving towards the animal husbandry. Let's get started with animal husbandry now, guys. Alright, so now we move towards the next thing, that is animal husbandry. So basically animal husbandry is that we are taking care of our animals, we are raising them, we are providing shelter to them, we are breeding them, and also we are protecting them from the diseases. Now why are we doing so? Obviously because we want food from them, we want milk from them, we want the agricultural work to be them, we want eggs from them, we want honey from them, so many types of different types of we are getting from the animals, hence we are doing. That is about the animal husband, right? Next, moving towards the topic called as cattle farming. Again, we are taking care of different sort of animals, so basically we're going to take care of the cattle farming, the poultry one, then the fish production, and lastly the honeybee, right? So talk about the four things here. We start first with the cattle farming. Now, why do we raise our cattle? Why are we taking care of them? Remember, humans are selfish. They are doing it for themselves, right? So they are doing it for the purpose of milk. and the purpose of farm labor, right? With the help of them, they're going to plow into the soil, they're going to use it for irrigation purposes. So basically, milk and farm labor, that is the two work, or shall I say the agricultural work. So these are the two purpose for them. For the milk producing female, the milk producing female can be called as the milch animal. The milk producing cattle is called as the milch or dairy animal. And the animals which we are using for the purpose of farm labor, you can mention here like tilling, like irrigation, right? Different agricultural work. If you're going to do it, your cattle, that animal will be called as the draught animal. Draught, right? The milch animal for the milk, draught for the farm labor, right? Now cattle which are there, which we use, they are going to belong to the two different species, the cow and the buffalo. The scientific name of the cow is Bos indicus. Scientific name of the cow is Bos indicus and scientific name of buffalo is Bos bubalis. Bos bubalis. These are the scientific names of the cow and the buffalo. And yes, we're going to say that the buffalo's milk is superior to the cow's milk, having large amount of nutrients as compared to the cow milk, right? Moving ahead towards the breed, right? So breed are basically the group of animals of the same species, and they have very much characteristics similar but also differences with respect to some characteristics. For example, if I say there are two types of the breeds, the indigenous breed as in the local breed, the local breed of India, right? And the exotic breed, let's say the foreign breed, which we have brought from the foreign. So remember that, let's say if any cattle is there and that is an indigenous breed, so I am going to say that will have long lactation period. Long lactation period. What do you mean by lactation period means? Lactation period simply means it is the duration of the milk production after the birth of the calf, right? Once the baby has born, what is the duration of the milk production, right? More the milk production, or shall I say more the lactation period, more is the milk production. It's obvious. So indigenous breed, that is the characteristic of exotic breed. Please mention it under exotic breed that they have a long lactation period. Long lactation period. Okay. The exotic breeds which we are getting it from the foreign, they produce large amount of milk. Why I am saying so? Because the duration of the birth of the calf and that duration milk is produced. That duration after the birth of the calf, if that lactation period will be long, more milk will be there, right? So exotic breeds have a quality that they have a long lactation period. What do our local breeds have the quality? That they are resistant to diseases. They are not catching the diseases very easily. Now again, you will be like, I want both the characteristic in one. I want one phone which can do everything for me. Similarly, one breed which will be resistant to diseases and the long lactation period, that will give rise to exotic breed, right? If we make a cross between the indigenous breed and the exotic breed, it will give us hybrids. It will give us hybrid having characteristic of the indigenous as well as the exotic breed. It will have characteristic of both. Remember, right? These are some of the examples of the types of breed. Indigenous have red, Sindhi, Sahiwal and Gir for the cows, and for the exotic breed we have brown Swiss, Jersey and Holstein. For the buffalo we have Murrah and Mehsana. The indigenous breed and the exotic are Azeri and Anatolian. Do we have to remember this? Yes, you have to remember this because in exams it can be asked which one is exotic, which one is Indian, right? So remember these breeds as well, right? Let's move little bit ahead towards the next topic. Now yes, I told you that we are taking care of them. How we are taking care of them, right? We are taking care of them by cleaning them, by providing shelter to them, by providing proper food to them, and also taking care of the health, right? Once we talk about the feed, we are taking care of the maintenance as well as the milk producing requirement. What do I mean by it? By the way, what is feeding of the cattle? Basically, we are providing food to the animals, right? Obviously, for the day-to-day life, they require different sorts of requirement, and once they are producing milk, they have different sorts of requirement for the food. So that is what it is showing, right? For example, have you seen Virat Kohli, right? There was an interview I was watching, guys, and in that interview, Virat Kohli was like, you know, when I am playing IPL, I have my diet restricted for 20 days. I only eat this. So Virat Kohli wants a particular sort of body so as to play well, so as to score amazing marks, or shall I say the runs in the match, or maybe sometimes bowl well as well. So basically that person wants to have particular physique. That person has to do a particular work. Therefore Virat Kohli is having a particular diet. Similarly, if we want our cattle to perform different functions, they're going to have a different of diet, right? Making sense? Let's take each one of them one by one. Very easy, very easy. If we talk about the cleaning of the cattle, basically we are taking care that we are brushing our cattle regularly. By brushing, we are removing all the loose hairs which are stuck, and also which we are removing the dirt, right? So we are cleaning them regularly. We are washing them. Then we move to the shelter. Yes, we are providing them a well-ventilated shelter where they can breathe easily. We are making sure they are protected from the extreme heat, extreme cold, or maybe also the rainfall. We are protecting them from these adverse conditions. Also, what we are making sure is that the floor which is there, we are making the floor in a slope manner. We are making our floor in the slope manner. What happens if it is slopey? All the water is going to fall off. Even if there is water, it's going to fall off, and basically I can say the floor will remain dry, right? The floor will remain dry, right? So that was about it. We are providing them proper shelter, and lastly we are coming to the feed. Obviously, as I have told you, if for the day-to-day habit we want them to be healthy, so for that we have a maintenance requirement, and once they are producing milk, for that we have certain requirement. So basically, once we use this word feed, feed means the food for animals. Feed means the food for animals. So basically, the cattle have two types of the food, the roughage and concentrate. Roughage is the one which is rich in fibers, and concentrates are the one which has less fibers but other nutrients like proteins, carbohydrates, they are in large amount. The nutrient rich food but low in fibers. It has carbohydrate, vitamins and proteins, but remember it will have a large amount of protein. Also, one more thing you have to remember, we are giving them a balanced diet. Yes, just like you need a balanced diet, that you need carbohydrate, proteins, fats, vitamins, all the nutrients in proportionate amount. Similarly, the cattle also required in a balanced amount. So I can mention the cattle, they need a balanced ration, that is basically all nutrients in appropriate amount. And also sometimes we can add some food additives into their food so that the micronutrients are also there for their growth, right? We can give the food additives also. Now, yes, the cattle can catch diseases. there can be two types of diseases, the parasitic diseases and the infectious or communicable diseases, right? Infectious, it should be infectious, right? And also communicable diseases, right? You know, communicable diseases, the diseases which can be transmitted from one infected person to a healthy person, right? Just like we have infectious diseases in humans like typhoid, TB. Similarly, cattle can also have communicable diseases which can be transmitted from an infected cattle to a healthy cattle, and they're infectious because they are caused by some infectious agent, either by a virus or by a bacteria or by a fungus. So there are different kinds of the pathogens which can cause different kinds of diseases in the case of cattle, right? Once we talk about the parasites, you know what are parasites. For example, leech is a parasite, right? You know the famous leech. Also in our heads we have, or also on the body of dogs we see, right? The ticks are there, the lice are there. 𝐑𝐄𝐂 निकालती है mother, right? The same thing. So similarly, these all parasites can be present on the body of the animals also, on the cattle also. So the parasites can be either external, that is they are present on the skin of the animal. If they are external parasite, obviously they are going to affect the skin and they are going to cause the skin diseases, right? It is going to affect the skin and it is going to the different types of the skin diseases. Also, I can say they can be internal also. They can enter into the body also, and those are called as internal parasites. Now, internal parasites, either they're going to enter into your stomach and your intestine. Stomach and intestine. If they enter your stomach and intestine, such type of parasites are called as the worms. And if they are going to enter and it's going to affect your liver, if it is going to affect your liver, then we're going to call them as flukes, right? Two types of parasite, the external one, the internal one. Internal also either the stomach or the intestine, called as the worms, and if they are affecting the liver, they are called as the flukes. That was about the cattle farming. Let us move towards the poultry farming. Now, once we move towards the poultry farming, the very first thing that yes, we are growing our domestic fowls for the purpose of egg and meat. We get the chicken meat and also we get the eggs. The birds which we are using are growing for the purpose of eggs, right? Those are called as the layers, and the one which we are growing for the chicken meat, those are called as the broilers, right? We have layers and broilers. Layers for the egg, broilers for the meat. Let's write it. Meat. Oh, done. Right? Let's move ahead now. Alright, let's move ahead. We talk about the variety improvement, that is the crossbreed. What is this now? So we know, again, just like we saw in cattle, there is a foreign breed and yes, there is a local breed. Similarly, in case of the poultry birds, also have the Indian breed called as a seal, and also we have a foreign breed called as the leghorn. Right? If we talk about the two breeds, again, what we can do, we can make a cross between them, and what I can do, I can form a hybrid having qualities of a bull. Now, the new variety which is formed, it is going to have what all characteristics? Yes, the number of the chicks will be more. The quality of the chicks will be more. I want that these chicks to be tolerable to the summer condition. If the temperature is going to high, they're going to survive in that, right? So basically, yes, the number and quality of the chicks, very first thing, yes, they should be able to adapt in the summer. They should be able to tolerate the higher temperature. Also, we are choosing the dwarf broiler parent for the production of the commercial chicks. Why we are using the dwarf, a small heighted? Because it will consume less food. Also, it will consume the less space as well. Right? A small one will have little space and also little food. Right? Person who are very big, they need more food. Right? More similarly. Right? Also, we can say reduction in the size of the egg laying bird with the ability to utilize, so they can use more amount of the fiber and the very cheap diet. We want them to have a cheap diet, right? We don't want to invest much in that, right? That is why. That are the new varieties which are having some of the very important characteristics. Also, I can say they should be low maintenance. Their demand should not be very high, right? They should be, you want a friend who is low maintaining, right? Not a friend who is going to say you know, I need this type of food today. Next day is going to tell you, I'm going to do the cycle, or maybe I'm going to this type of pen or whatever, right? So these also should be having low maintenance. Low maintenance. 1 point you can add, right? These are the some of the qualities. Now, again, we are taking care of them. Once we are taking care of them, we are taking care of the shelter. We are providing them a shelter again where they can be well ventilated. They are well protected, right? They protected from the temperature, and also they are maintaining hygiene. Obviously, if hygiene is not there, they're going to catch much more amount of diseases, right? Next is feed. Again, they require different sorts of feed. If we talk about the broiler, right? If we talk about the broiler is the one which we obtain for, why we are growing them? For obtaining meat from them, So basically, we want the diet of those broiler should be rich in protein, should be rich in fat, and also have vitamin A and K in them. Vitamin A and K. Remember, protein rich, fat rich, A and K, right? Protein rich, fat rich, and also vitamins A and K is there in the case of the broiler food. Remember that. Again, guys, these can be infected by the diseases. Some of the poultry diseases are mentioned. They can be infected by a virus or a bacteria. Some example can be ranikhet, bird flu, and diarrhea. Right? Now, how we can prevent them? We can prevent them by providing the vaccines, right? Just imagine, guys, why we are not letting them to have the disease. A cattle not have a disease, because if they are diseased, they won't be able to produce milk. They won't be able to give you a good egg, right? Their function will reduce. Their efficiency will reduce. That is why we are protecting our cattle as well as the poultry birds to catch any disease, right? So basically, we can say by vaccine. We are going to give them the vaccine, right? So that was about the food as well as the other thing. Lastly, we have this fish production, right? We all know that fish is a cheap source of animal protein, and how we can obtain our fish. We can obtain our fish by two methods, that is a capture fishing and the culture fishing. Capture fishing is the one where we are just catching the fishes from the natural resources, either the fresh or the marine. Marine is the like ocean and the seas, basically where the salt amount is high, right? And the fresh water is ponds and lakes. So we can say capture is basically we are catching the fishes from the, we are just catching them from the natural, this either fresh water or your marine water. Right? Marine water is the one where the salt level is high, guys. Right? Now, cultural fishery. Culture, we are growing them, we are raising them, we are managing them, and then we are catching them. Right? So, basically, we are raising, managing, and ultimately catching, as in the harvesting them. Again, from what sources? Again, we can say from the fresh water as well as the marine water. Now, on the basis of what source of water is there, is it fresh water or marine water? So I can say yes, two sources, the sea water and the fresh water. Sea is nothing but the marine water, right? Now, on the type of what sort of water they are having, there can be different types of fishery. Either we are catching fisheries from the marine water. So if we are catching our fishes from the marine water, they are called as marine fisheries, right? Which we are catching from the marine water. Now you'll be like, ma'am, what is marine water? I have already told you. The marine water example can be the sea and the ocean. The sea and the ocean. Some of the very famous marine fish varieties are mentioned here. They can be asked, write down or identify which one is marine water fishes, right? So you must be remembering these fishes name by heart. And yes, marine fishery is simply what we are doing it in the sea and the ocean. Now, how are we going to catch them? We can catch them using our fish net, right? There are fish net. In that fish net, the fish will be trapped. So I can say, catch fishes using the fishing net from the fish boat. Fishing boat have the fish net. Also, like, there will be a group of fishes. What is a group of fishes called as? Now you'll be like, ma'am, we are back in our first, second English class. So if we want to locate a group of fishes, there's the school of fish, right? So if we want to locate the school of fishes, it can be done using some satellites and eco-sounders, right? So if we want to increase the yield, so we can increase the yield by catching school of, or shall I say by locating. We are locating where we are going to find group of fishes. Locating the school of fishes. And how we are locating them? We are locating them using eco sounders as well as satellite. Clear? Is it making sense? Yes or no? Is it clear to you all? Right? Let's move ahead. Now we come to inland fishery. So inland word basically where we are doing it in fresh water as well as the brackish water. It's a collective term for fresh water as well as the brackish water. So you know fresh water sources? Do you know? Can you tell me what are the fresh water sources? Yes, ma'am, we can tell you. For example, we have ponds, we have lakes, right? We have river. These all are fresh water sources. Now we have brackish water sources. Also, what are the brackish water sources? Brackish water basically is the water where the fresh water and the marine water mixes together. For example, estuaries and lagoons, right? Where the fresh water and marine water together. For example, we have estuaries and lagoons. We are catching our fish from such water, we call it as the inland fisheries, right? Marine and inland fisheries, I hope it makes sense, both of these. Alright, let's move ahead towards the composite fish culture. Now, what is composite fish culture? It is a type of fish culture where we are growing different species of the fishes. Let's say 5 to 6 different species of a fishes in a single pond. right? We have a single pond, and in that I am growing different types of fishes, different species of the fishes. Let's say this is my pond, and in this pond I have taken different sorts of fishes. Different sorts of fishes are there. Now, why I have taken different types of fishes? What is the reason for taking 5 to 6 types of species, for taking different types of the species? The purpose is we are making sure that they are not competing, right? Your friends should be your friends. If there is competition in your friends, a healthy competition is different, but if there is much competition in your friends, like, you won't be able to go high in your life, right? Go great in your life. So that is why what I want to tell you, that these fishes we are going to take, we have to make sure they all have different food habits. There is no competition for the food. So what happens that they have different habits. Some are going to have the food, consume the food present on the surface of the pond. Some are going to eat in the middle zone. Some are going to have in the bottom zone. So they all have different food habits. For example, we have taken a catless fish, which is a surface feeder. Then we have the rohu, which is a middle zone feeder. Bottom feeder is mrigal and common carps, and the one which feeds on the weeds also, the weeds, unwanted plants also, that is going to be the grass carps. So different types of the fishes have different food habits. There is no competition for the food, right? So these are the different species which are mentioned here. Now again, these can be asked, what are the different fishes? Very, very important concept, the composite fish culture. Now what are the advantages of this particular fish culture? The advantage is there is no competition of food. There is no competition for food. If there is no competition for food, that is, they have different food habits. If they have different food habits, all the type of the food will be consumed from the different parts of the pond. All the kind of the food will be consumed. So I can say all different food will be consumed from different parts of the pond. Obviously, we are growing so many types of fishes, so I can say it will increase the yield, and also I can say at a single time I am going to obtain 5 to 6 species of fishes from a single pond. From single pond, I'm going to get different kinds of fishes. Isn't it great? But it comes with its own disadvantage. That is, these fishes generally, they breed only during the monsoon season. That is, they breed only during the monsoon season. And since they breed only during the monsoon season, the quality of the sweet will not be quite great, right? The quality will be not so great. The lack of good quality seed. Now, how do we solve this problem? How do we solve this problem? We solve this problem by hormone stimulation in the pond as well, so as to breed the fishes. So for breeding the fishes, we are using of hormone stimulation in the pond itself, right? So we are doing the hormone stimulation to breed the fishes, right, so as to overcome this problem. Yes, it comes with the advantages and disadvantages, and I'm going to mark it very, very important. Both the merits and demerits of composite fish culture, many a times asked in your exam. You cannot miss it, right? Let's topic is integrated fish culture. What is integrated fish culture? Basically, let's say I am growing paddy. What is paddy? paddy is wheat crop, right? Oh, sorry, rice crop, not the wheat, but the rice, right? So I've grown the paddy here, which is the rice crop, and we all know that the rice require large amount of water, and hence it was a kharif crop, it was a monsoon crop, it requires large amount of water. So it grows in the field where there is shallow water present, right? There is shallow water present, and in this shallow water, if the fishes are also here, if fishes are also growing in this shallow water, we call this as integrated. Integrated means collective. We are having the field also, that is, we are having the rice also, the paddy also we are getting fishes, right, from a single place. Two benefits. So I can say sometimes done in combination with a rice crop, fish culture done with the rice crop, and yes, they are grown in the water of the paddy. I hope this makes sense to you. Let's move ahead towards the beekeeping, the last topic for today. Finally, we are coming towards the end. Let's discuss about it. So basically, beekeeping, again, we are taking care of the bees. Now, why are we taking care of the bees? We will be taking care of the bees for the purpose of honey, as well as we are getting wax from it. You know, honey has several medicinal benefits. Also, it is helpful for our body. It boosts our immunity. But if we talk about the wax, it is also used in some of the medicinal preparation. The bees wax is also used in, it is used in cosmetic industry also. It is used in medicinal properties. Also used in cosmetic industries, right? It is used in cosmetic industries. Honey, good for health, boost our immunity, help in production of amazing cells in the body. So very good for our body. Now we are getting fruit from our bees. Again, the bees can be of two types, the two breeds, that is the indigenous, the local breed, and the exotic, that is the foreign breed. So in case of the indigenous breed, we have Apis cerana indica, which is the Indian bee. Then we have Apis dorsata, the rock bee, Apis florea, the little bee. Now we have foreign bee, the Italian bee, that is the Apis mellifera. Now, why have we brought this bee from the Italy? What benefits does it have? Very important topic, guys. Again, you cannot mix it. Right? Now, what are the advantages of this particular bee? It gives us good yield of honey. Large honey capacity will be there. We're going to get good honey. Honey production will be more in case of the Apis mellifera. It's going to sting you less, right? You're going to take care of the beehive, you're going to take care of the bees. It's not going to sting you much. Also, remember, it's going to stay in that particular beehive for a longer duration. It's not like it's here for only for 2 days, then I don't know where this bee has gone. So it's going to have high honey collection capacity, sting less, and also they stay in the beehive for a longer period of time, and also they breed also very well. Very important. Why Apis mellifera has preferred, what all benefits does Apis mellifera gives us? Very important, right? That is why I'm marked with the stars. Okay. Lastly, the apiary, basically the place where we are keeping our beehives, where we are keeping our bees. And what we have to make sure to increase the yield of the honey is about the pasturage, right? Basically the flowers, right? Obviously, if the flowers are going to be large in number, then only honeybees can go and collect the nectar and pollen from. So basically the kind of flowers and the quality and the quantity of the flowers will determine the honey yield, right? So basically I can say by kind and quantity of flowers, right? It will determine high yield of the honey. That was about this chapter, guys, but we are still not done. Let's discuss few of the questions and then we can call it a bye, right? So let's discuss some questions. All right, let's discuss some questions. So basically the photo period it affects the flowering of the plant. Next we have kharif crops are grown from, yes, they are grown from the June to October month. Then we have the rabi. Rabi are grown from the November to somewhat April. Paddy, maize, green gram and black gram, we know they are kharif crop. And lastly, the wheat, gram, pea and mustard, they are rabi crops, right? That was about the fill-ups. Let's move to the other question. Why is excessive use of the fertilizer will be detrimental for the environment? Because it will lead to the soil, the water pollution, right? It will decrease the soil fertility. Also, it will lead to water pollution. Is it clear? We discussed it. I hope it's making sense to you all. Next we have what are the benefits of the kettle farming. Pretty easy. I'm going to give you as a homework. Try to do it. Again, guys, all these questions are there. I want you to see it by themselves. For few questions which have a tricky answer, I have kept the answers also for you so that it is very easy for you to understand. But all of that we have already discussed, so nothing much to say here. You will be able to do these questions. I'm going to give all of them as homework. Try to do them. Again, if you're facing issue, you can do let me know. We can do it. The capture fishing, mariculture, aquaculture. Again, a homework for you guys. Italian bee has introduced in India for the production of honey. What are the merits? What are the advantages? We have seen high honey collection capacity, stingless, stays in the beehive for a longer period, breeds well, right? We have seen all the benefits. You will be able to do it. Again, a homework. Okay, merits and demerits of fish culture. Again, we have done it. Homework. And yeah, that's it. Now we come to an end for today's class. Guys, we started with the crops and how we are increasing the demand of it, how we are demanding, we are meeting that demand for the increasing population by growing the plants in a sustainable manner, by raising the animals in a sustainable manner. Yes, we have seen the increase in the crop yield as well as we have seen the animal husbandry in very much detail. I hope you have understood the topics well. I request you to do all of these homework, practice these questions, practice more questions. If you have any single query, you can do let me know, right? We have already seen the green revolution. One simple homework I would like you to give, that is white revolution is for just like green revolution for the increase in production of the grains. What is the white revolution and blue revolution? And who is the father of white revolution? So all of this is a homework. Try to find that out. Write down in the comment box. I'll be checking and I'll be knowing if you are actually dealing into this topic very nicely or not. So that's it from my side. Thank you so much, everyone. Till then, keep learning and keep shining. Stay awesome, which you already are.